Europeans, what is something us Americans aren't ready to hear? Worcestershire. Wash your sister sauce. Grew up 30 miles from Worcestershire. Worcester is what most people around there call the actual city. Yes, because Worcester is the city. Worcestershire is the county. I was making dinner at one point and asked my wife to get me the sibling cleaning sauce once it clicked. She was hysterical laughing. Yes, if you're any W Englander, especially the kind that lives in Massachusetts, that's how you pronounce the city of Worcester. Worcester. $1.25, please. I thought it was Worcester, sure. What's this here sauce? Worcestershire, told our executive chef that one. I've never seen him laugh so hard. He's not exactly a jokey kind of guy either. Roy's sister Shirai. It's neither normal nor okay to have to go bankrupt just to go to school or going to the hospital. Joke's on us. You can't declare bankruptcy on student loan debt. Tipping is stupid. Just pay your staff a proper living wage. I agree. I get if the service or waiter is really good. Or if the person strikes you as wow, what a good person, and you give a little extra. But I think it's dumb that tipping is basically their salaries. It's even worse now that McDonald's and Subway and the Ducking gas station have tipping. Many servers will tell you to F off since they make way more with tips. Tipping is fine when it is used as a sign of appreciation, not to substitute a wage. If you talk to waitstaff here, you'll find that a lot of them wouldn't change a thing. A buddy of mine did bartending as an evening and weekend gig on top of his regular full-time job simply because he made too much to stop. He'd come home some nights with a couple $100 in cash tips. Fake people getting tipped are against it because tips are quite a lot of money and you would need to pay them more than double the minimum wage to compensate. Ask Reddit thread on www.reddit.com/r/askreddit/comments/10ftxitwo/what if we all stopped tipping, why not eliminate slash atom source equals share and atom medium equals Android app and atom name equals Android and atom term equals 1 and atom content equals share button highlight comment threads/www.reddit.com/r/askreddit/comments/10ftxitwo/what if we all stopped tipping, why not eliminate slash jseventwo. Atom source equals share and atom medium equals Android app and atom name equals Android and atom term equals 1 and atom content equals share button. Also, another argument is that it incentivizes working on busy days rather than ones with very low customers, but looks like other countries have figured out how to overcome this issue. It's fine if they prefer tipping over a higher wage, but then don't start complaining about not getting tipped. That's part of the system as well. This so much had to take my car in for rotors, pads, and a caliper issue. Took it to my longtime brake guy this past weekend. He hooked me up with everything for $400 out the door, so naturally I threw him a hundo as a token of my appreciation. He wasn't expecting it, but exactly as you said, I wanted to show him my appreciation. Meanwhile, we now have online ordering systems with little to no human involvement that bring you to tip pages before completing your order. It's ducking ridiculous. For your information, in Europe they will likely need to give their tips to their employer anyway, who will then take a cut and distribute the rest evenly between all employees. Also, do you tip the plumber, the factory worker who made your toilet paper? Tipping only certain professions is dumb. You guys agree on this for the last 5 years. Nothing changed though, it even got worse apparently, like tipping at drive-thrus. WTF. Y'all need some trains. Just normal public transportation. Public transportation that is decent and not seen as the poor people's transportation. It drives me crazy how much complaining there is about traffic in major US cities like LA or SF, which would be solved if they had train/metro links in and out of those cities. We need more passenger rail. We have the most rail of any country, but it's basically all freight. I'm from a small town in the US originally. If you didn't have a car, you were pretty screwed as far as getting to school/work/social activities. Well, the thing is we have a lot of trains. Actually, they are just privately owned and or industrial rails. Look at railroad maps from the Gilded Age, you'd be amazed. We only developed more since then. We only have the most rail of any country. You have a continent-sized country. Having the most won't simply cut it. It has to be high either per capita or per square mile. Otherwise, potential passengers won't have a convenient access to the grid. I understand traveling from Chicago to LA, even in a comfortable sleeper wagon, is still time-consuming. But the fact that people fly even on Houston-Dallas route, well, it's because there aren't other valid incentives. We have trains. If I want to go from Cincinnati to NYC, I'd get to leave at 3 a.m. and be in a train for 20 hours. Takes longer than driving there and costs more than flying. Isn't it great? Story time. The state I'm in used to have a very, very extensive rail system. Most of the tracks are still there, just buried. A number of years ago I was working on a project to renovate an old train station to a different use space, but still maintain the historic qualities of the building. To that end, I worked closely with a guy high up the food chain in the state's Transportation Infrastructure Department who also was very familiar with the historic landmarks of the state. According to him, if they were greenlit to do so, it would take under a month to uncover every track in the state and repair the ties and rails to working order. Just would require the funding and the workforce, both of which exist but are being used for other projects that are deemed more viable. One of those is repairing the same overpass out in rural nowhere every 2 years. By the way, even in most big cities you need a car. Here in Orlando, you need a car because the Orlando metro area is like an hour and a half drive across because it's so much urban sprawl. And IDIC if I've ever seen buses here TBH. Trust me, this is something talked about over here a lot. Yep, we've got an insane freight train system, but we prioritized sending goods over it rather than passengers. Under a month. In the US, I've watched work crews pit around for a week redoing one rail crossing. Yeah, of course, in your case it makes complete sense to have a car. My mother lives in the countryside as well in the UK and public transportation exists, but it isn't the same. Much easier to have a car. My comment was more aimed at commuting and to an extent intercity travel. It makes travel a lot nicer. Instead of taking a 5-minute 6-hour drive where I'll arrive exhausted and sore, I can hop on a train for a 4-hour journey where I can read, nap, whatever until I arrive. It's taking a generational shift away from baby boomers glorifying suburban life, which necessitates a car and a commute to millennials and Gen Z preferring functional public transit. We're just not in charge yet. I know Netherlands is a really weird outlier, but the ability to own a bike as the primary transportation method is so liberating. Yep, somehow asterisk the train from Pittsburgh to Philly costs about $80 and takes 7 hours. Driving the same route takes about 5.5 hours and costs about $30 in gas. Asterisk by which I mean through a long and sordid history of duckery. I think if we just add one more lane, that'll solve the traffic issue as someone in rural nowhere, where no trains will ever reach, please do not begrudge me being able to travel to a train station or similar. Trains aren't going to fix that in small town USA. I grew up rural and my dad told me to get a job. I was like, sure, give me a ride, and he was like, you can walk the 27 miles to Burger King. There was maybe 4 jobs in my town, all at the gas station, and was like, no, that's dangerous, and they only pay $4 an hour. I'm old part-time. So the 20 hours I would work would get me about $100-ish every 2 weeks. Now time invested would be 12 minutes 13 hours a day, and twice the amount of the shift I would be working would be spent walking the back roads where there's at least 87 pictures with flowers on the side of the road from all the drunk driving accidents. I was given an allowance for chopping wood for our elderly neighbor after that presentation. My job now is in supply chain logistics. Now I get paid to give those presentations I gave as a kid to get out of doing dumb work. Sire showed him. Need to be able to get a train from any state capital or the largest city in the state to any other. That should be the minimum level of service. Not that long ago, I had a disagreement with someone on Reddit who said they were from rural my state. They were adamant that they would be taxed to help the poor in cities and wouldn't ever see any benefit themselves. They refused to consider that it would be possible to add public transportation to small towns too. SF does have trains in and out. The BART runs in the North Bay all the way to Antioch. I'm not sure how far south, but the city lies on this peninsula where millions are trying to get in and out of. There is a bit of caste disparity sprinkled in there as well. I think that is the major issue everywhere. Consumption is glamorized and public works are for the plebs. Yep, it's so bad only a poor person without other options would take it. I recently thought about taking the bus to somewhere I frequent with annoying parking. It's 10 minutes by car, 40 by bus. And I'm not sure if both buses I'd need to take stop running before I'd need to come back. I took the train to Cincinnati from California once. I was actually trying to get to Kentucky, but Cincinnati at 3 a.m. was the closest Amtrak could get me. It took 4 days and cost about as much as a plane ticket. As Europe is literally the Star Guitar video. Europe and the European Union are not the same thing. Also, when people say that they went to Europe, specify what country, because they are all very different. I think when most people say they went to Europe, they took a tour through multiple European countries. I think when Americans say I went to Europe, it implies multiple countries. To be succinct, they say Europe. If there is interest or follow-up questions, you then speak more specifically as to which countries were included. If a European went on a trip to Canada, the US, Mexico, and the Bahamas, they might say I went to North America. It doesn't mean they think North America is a country. Russia, Papal States, and the United Kingdom are identical. That one is easy. The European Union is no moon, Europa however is. If I say I went to Europe, there is a good chance I went to more than one country. Heck, specify which region. Yes, this is common knowledge. At the same time, people recognize that Europe is often used as a cynic nerd face for the entire European Union. Are Europeans ready to hear this? I think a few Europeans need to hear that given the mirrored version of this comment yesterday. A lot of they left, we don't count them, or my favorite, that's not Europeans, that's the British, we don't claim them anymore. Many times when an example of the UK popped up, like damn I expected that from the Americans but not from you. What's the deal with mega churches? Why do you send them that much money? Don't think of them as religious, just really good con artists. Snake oil salesmen have modernized. They aren't that good if a moron like me can tell from 15,000 kms away that they are full of stick. A lot of Americans are confused about this too. You built an entire ducking church city. You know the poorer, stupider part of your society. Ours like those churches. I've never met one of those attendees in my life because I don't go slumming. They are trash. The dregs of who we are. In Europe, there are many countries that literally pay the churches by taxes. Lamal. Boy, y'all literally got the Vatican.